Hey, welcome back everybody to today's video, the secret to a good crew member. Now this video can apply to a current crew member, a driver, a car owner, a crew chief, anybody at all. Stay tuned, all the information you need to know next. Hi, I'm Billy Dietrich, sprint car mechanic and driver. I've been around racing my whole life and it's pretty much all I know. We created this channel to share the good and the bad, and everything in between. Our crew may not be the most experienced or professional, but we get it done and we have a good time doing it. We'll show you what it's really like racing weekly at some of the best tracks in central Pennsylvania. I'm also going to share some sprint car tutorials, mechanics, parts, and whatever else I feel like. So like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Enjoy the ride. Yeah, boy. Alright, so this video is about, like I said, being a crew member. Now, this is all information that I have gathered over the years from my experience, personal experiences. And this isn't just for sprint car racing, it can be for any form of racing. It doesn't really matter what kind of racing you're doing. All of these are valid points that you need to know for your crew. So the first point of this video is everybody needs to get along. It might seem pretty simple, but it's really, really important. Everybody on the crew, everybody has to mesh. And, if you have that instance where things aren't meshing and things ain't, going good and people are bickering back and forth, it's just going to make things uncomfortable. Things don't flow well at the track or in the shop, and it just causes, a problem. So it's very, very important. You maybe not always think about that, but when you run into the situation where it becomes a problem, if you're part of that team, you just have to address it, fix the problem, move on, and then everybody will be much better off. All right, my next point is everyone needs to have a specific job. So if you have a crew, it's important that everybody has their own job, and here's why. You don't want somebody assuming that somebody else did said job. You have two guys thinking that this guy did the job and it didn't get done, and then you have a bigger problem. Parts fall off the car, you run out of fuel, so on and so forth. You don't want that to happen. Now, there's certain ways you can handle this. And on my particular, in our team, I have a fuel guy, a tire guy, and some other guys that just kind of assist with everything. So that's one way to handle it. And other ways, even like I'm gonna say at the shop, you may have a guy that does motor plate forward, does all the work from the motor plate forward. You got a guy that does all the work from the motor plate back, and then you might have a guy that does strictly motor work. Everybody has to have their own job. And here's one last point on this. It's not a bad idea if you're the crew chief or like myself. Even though everybody has their own job, I check everything over to make sure everything's done 100%. Then you have no stones left unturned. All right, next is reliable. You got to be reliable to the team. You can't not show up or not come to the shop or what have you. You don't want to leave your crew hanging, your team hanging. You might have a situation where you're short on help or what have you, and you don't show up. It puts everybody in a bad spot. You figure the rest of the team is counting on you being there. You got your job that maybe you do every week. And I understand you can't be there every week. Sometimes things come up, but you got to communicate with the team. You can't let them hanging. If you know you're not going to make it, it's not the end of the world. Call, text, whatever you got to do, communicate. That way everybody knows what's going on and you can plan accordingly. And when race day rolls around, there's no surprises. Trustworthy. Everybody on the crew has to be trustworthy. You got to be able to trust who you're working with. It can be every single person on the team. You got to have that trust. You don't want to break it. I'll give you a few examples as to why this is important. It is a wide range of things. First of all, it comes to working on the car. You got to be able to trust that the person doing said job is doing it properly. And to go along with that, you also got to trust that the people that are working on the car are working with you and not against you. And let me elaborate on that real quick. Obviously, working with you is you're working as a team. You're doing it together. Nobody's doing something they shouldn't be doing. The opposite of that is when somebody thinks they know more than the rest of the team and they're over here making adjustments on their own, whether it be shocks or tire spacing, air pressure, so on and so forth. You name it, it happens. That's a big no-no. The second part of this would be the trust around the shop and around the team and the equipment. So you got, and this has happened many times over the years, I hear about it through the shop, people come in and tell me about it, parts go missing. Okay, it's uncomfortable to talk about it, but it happens. And if you're the crew guy or a team owner, then you see this happening, you got to make an adjustment right away because you don't want to be involved in that. But super important, got to be trusted by everyone. That's the only way to be. All right, this next one's kind of geared towards the crew member, the guy that maybe wants to be on a race team. It's mechanical knowledge or racing background, whether it be sprint cars, late models, street stocks, micros, whatever it may be, whatever you're looking at getting into. It's going to help you further your knowledge in the actual crew part of the team. The bolts, the nuts, all that stuff, the wrenches. It may seem pretty basic to a lot of us, but if you're not familiar with it, doing it every single day, it takes a lot to get caught onto that. So a little bit of background on the mechanical side is going to go a long way, and it'll speed up your process of being a crew member, and maybe moving up the ladder for whatever team you're on to bigger and better things. Well, you got to be able to listen to the driver and the crew chief. I personally started out as a crew member. My dad raced, as you probably know. I started carrying fuel jugs and scraping mud and measuring tires. And then, through the years, I've been on several race teams. I've been crew chief several times, plus my own experience as a driver slash, I kind of crew chief the whole team, my own team. So you got to be able to listen to the input coming from the driver and the crew chief. It's really, really important. There's plenty of instances where, the driver's going to speak or the crew chief's going to speak to the crew, however it may go down. And you just got to take the information in, whether it be solid information or information where everybody's scratching their head, good, bad, indifferent, it's all valuable. And as a crew member, you got to be able to take that information, maybe not speak on it right away. You may have to let the driver think about it a few minutes. And if you're the crew chief, you may have to, take that information, think about it, put your own, 2 cents in per se with the driver and collaborate. That's another good point with this is sometimes you just got to race, digest the race, and then kind of collaborate. We do it a lot on our own team. I know when I was crew chief before, I'd talk to the driver would say car felt like this, that, whatever. I'd take that information into my brain and what I saw on the track, because it's always different. What the driver's seeing and feeling is going to look different from the outside, and kind of digest all that and try to come up with a game plan. So that's a big part of being on a successful team. Let's just put it that way. You work together, you take that information, you listen to the driver, listen to the crew chief. They want you to do this, you do it. That's the way it goes. You make the changes, go out and try it again. All right, my next point is get to the shop as much as you can. It's important that you get there so you can learn as much about the race car and the race team and how things work. That way when it's time to get to the racetrack, you're more familiar with the routine and you're more familiar with the simple stuff on the car too. The bolts and nuts, what you're looking for, what may be, what you check every week. As a crew member, you get to the shop, you can see how how things are done, the maintenance is done. Maybe the brake maintenance, for example, stuff you really don't work on at the track, but when you work on it at the shop, you may see, well, this, this is loose, or this needs to be looked at or adjusted, or so on and so forth, or look for leaks, for example. It's one big thing. So it's important. It's going to help the crew when they get to the track. They'll be more streamlined with what's going on. It'll be, in my opinion, there's less thought involved because you're doing it more often. Some things just become natural. Your eye becomes trained to look for certain things. So the more you do it, the better you get at it. Get to the shop as much as you can. One of the hardest things to do at the track is to keep your emotions in check. You know, everybody's got to keep their cool, and it's not always easy to do. If something happens on the track, there's an incident on the track, everybody gets riled up, they're fired up, but you got to keep in mind, you may have to come in off that track and get the car ready for the next event. And nobody, I don't care who you are, can focus or get the job done if everybody's fighting. We've seen it happen time and time again. A good crew will be able to keep control of themselves because the big picture is you're there to race. Something's going to happen. It's going to happen at some point in time throughout the season, or it might happen multiple times. But you'll see it. You'll see the teams that can keep their eye on the prize. When something goes down, yeah, everybody's pissed off. It happens, but they're there to race, fix the car, whatever it may be. Even maybe the car don't need fixed, but you got to focus on the next event, getting ready to race. It's a big part of the racing scene and the crew. You got to be on the same page. Teams got to be on the same page. So there you go. Just to add on is working under pressure. It happens just like we just talked about. You get in an incident on the track, your car's coming down pit lane hot, whether it be front end damage or on the wrecker or tire or wing, whatever it is. You got to be able to handle the pressure. And we've seen it time and time again. You get out there and things start going sideways and guys are impact and they're hammering, and you got to keep your cool. You got to keep your focus. You got to know what needs done. Like this, we're focusing on this. Maybe the wing's got a hole in it. Doesn't matter. You can race that way. Radius rods need change, drag link, tire rod, whatever it is. And part of that also is knowing that if there's too much damage. Big one right here. I've seen it many times. Guys come in, they think it's their time to shine. And it's not a knock on the crew, but somebody's got to be able to make the call. You got to be able to say, hey, you know what, guys, we're done. We can't go back out. This isn't safe. Seen that many times. Guys are trying to change something. Next thing you know, they're cross-threading bolts or nuts ain't tight, and cars fall apart on the track. Got to stay cool under pressure. Somebody's got to know when to say enough is enough. And if you don't, the consequences could be much further behind where you came in. If you went out and tore the car up, it just ain't worth it. This one's being professional. You got to act professional. There's people watching you. You figure you're on a race team, and you got, even if you have 2 sponsors or if you got 20 sponsors, you're representing this team, and everybody, it's a part of the team. There's going to be people watching you. They ain't a part of your team as well. You got fans watching you, other crews watching you, families watching you, name it. You just got to be professional as much as you can, or I should say all the time. Now, I say as much as you can because there is a time to have fun and cut up and carry on, but you don't want to take it too far. I've seen it already where, people say you even win the race and you're having a good time and people go too far. They're in victory lane and they're, smashing beers over their heads or what have you. It may be fun for some of us, but there's a certain line there that I feel as though is professional, and you got to try and stay within them boundaries. And it isn't, it isn't that hard to do if you just keep your mind set that that's how it needs to be all the time. Then it just kind of comes natural. Eliminate race day distractions. Distractions in the pits leads to mistakes on the racetrack. And here's what I mean by that. I see it all the time. We probably all see it. During race day, you got the guys on their phones, the guys texting their girlfriends, so on and so forth. You can't have that cluttered up mind and think you're going to be 100% focused on the job you got to do. It could be a simple job as putting fuel in the race car. You know, you're over here thinking about, you know, your sweetheart from last night and how much fun it was. And the next thing you know, you're out of fuel on lap 5. Well, sucks to be you because you're going to get your ass chewed out probably, right? You got to eliminate these off-the-track distractions. Come to the track, you know, clear mind, ready to race, not thinking about anything else. You know, that's the way it's got to be. My last point, and maybe the most important point, and this is for everybody on the team, is come to the races in the best physical shape you possibly can. You may say, what does that mean? Well, it might mean, you know, drinking plenty of water. It might mean not slamming 12 monsters, you know. Maybe getting a good night's sleep ahead of time, coming well rested. Now, I know that the physical part is different for every single person, but this is something that everybody personally can take full responsibility for and control themselves. Now, one of my biggest pet peeves, and I'll just leave it at that, is, you know, guys going out the night before and just boozing it up, having a good time, partying with their friends. You know, it don't seem to matter, you know, what the occasion may be, but, you know, if it's a Friday night and we're racing on a Saturday, you see these guys coming to the track, or you saw them Friday night at the track, and they're just wasted, and they're hammered. Well, you know that you can't perform to the top of your ability if you've been hungover, out till 4 in the morning, you know, coming to the track with your eyes barely open, your face is all red, and you're sweating profusely because you were hammered the night before. You know, you got to do better than that. You can't be that guy. Don't be that guy. It's like it bugs the shit out of me when I see this happening. So don't be that guy. Control it. Put it in. There's a time and a place. You're going to have a whole off season to have a good time. But when it's race season, keep your act together. Show up to the track, ready to race, clear mind, physically good. Drink your Budweisers on Sunday when you're not racing. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully you find this video helpful. These are all tips that I've experienced along the way over the past, 30 plus years of racing stuff. We ran into, what have you. I appreciate you tuning in. By all means, comment below. Let me know what you think. Share the video. This could pertain to any form of racing. Everybody out there. So, like, subscribe. We'll see you on the next video. Thank you.